FNAF Plus is the long-awaited remaster to the classic original Five Nights at Freddy's, and today I wanted to talk about everything we know about the incredibly hyped title, from game contents, pricing, and potential release dates as we hope for the game to finally come out this year in 2023. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is the release date for this game, and there's honestly a lot to unpack here despite Fiznom being very vocal about not wanting to give out any factual release dates. And that's for obvious reasons that I totally understand. He doesn't want to delay it and then have a security breach situation where everyone gets mad. I get it. However, there's still a lot of things that could be told about the potential release dates based on what we do have. See, in August, the Five Nights at Freddy's Plus Steam page list and trailer released, and while contents aside, the popular YouTuber Dalko actually reacted to it on live stream and predicted the game would release in October of last year, which was obviously false. However, after this, the developer would actually end up reacting to this clip on his own and would confirm a few things to us about the release, telling us that as of August at least, the game was still months away from releasing, and that there will be at least one more trailer for the game before it finally comes out. So with all this being said, that was 5 months ago, and assuming what he said was true, that should basically confirm that the game is releasing sometime this year, assuming there's no delays, which there very well may be. In terms of specifics, it's really hard to pinpoint anything down, honestly, because we won't really know for sure until the main trailer the developer is still working on finally releases, because only then will we have the concrete evidence or maybe even a release date in that altogether. However, there's actually some recent speculation that says we could be getting closer to the release, because on the Steam page for FNAF Plus, it was actually revealed that the page's status switched from in development to coming soon, possibly telling us that we could be getting near a trailer release date or even yet closer to the game finally coming out, but there isn't much proof to back this up, so I can't say anything for sure. We can also make some guesses on when the game releases just based on the development progress of the game. Firstly, in a FAQ, they said that whenever we do end up getting a release date, it won't be until the game is, as they say, feature complete. And if I had to guess, this would probably also be when a trailer for the title is finally completed, which obviously is the point we are yet to reach. And we also know that as of February of last year, so a year ago at this point, the game supposedly had every asset complete, all of the character animations complete, and was in a playable alpha stage at that moment, with the rest of the game's development mostly revolving around polishing and bug fixing to ensure the final product is presentable and visually good looking, which we've already seen the progression of as new GIFs and other screenshots have came up since, showing actual gameplay of the office inside FNAF Plus, along with other teasers sprinkled throughout the game's trailers. So with all this being said, there is clearly some genuine progress being made here, and there doesn't seem to be too much work left to go outside of course, promotion for the game, which will probably happen after the real game trailer releases in the near future. If I had to guess on a whim, an actual release time, it could be in October of this year to match the theming of the Halloween holiday, or better yet, maybe even in August, because that's when the original Five Nights at Freddy's came out, and it could be an amazing way to commemorate such a great title with this remaster. A remaster that, might I add, has been in development for years. So clearly there must be a lot of new content in the game, especially in the new features like the FNAF Plus mode, which we'll touch more upon later, that I haven't really been seeing talked about much outside of a minor mention here and there. But I think regardless of when the game comes out specifically, we can almost 100% expect the title for this year just based on everything we have, even if it ends up being in the later half. But take this with a grain of salt, because admittedly it's a lot of speculation. Let me know your release date predictions down below and subscribe on your way. The next thing I want to talk about is the game's actual contents. More specifically, what's going to be different in FNAF Plus compared to the first game it's remastering. Because obviously, as you could expect, FNAF Plus is going to be a reimagining of the original Five Nights at Freddy's. However, despite that, there's still a lot of things that are going to be newly implemented, starting with the game's new cast. The classic family of four, being Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, and of course Freddy, are going to be making their return with some brand new incredible designs to go along with them. However, unfortunately, the famous phone guy voiced by Scott Cawthon himself will actually not be making a return, because as the developer said himself, Scott Cawthon actually declined to record new lines for the character. And so instead of phone guy, he will be replaced by different characters with an S. So while unfortunately we will be losing the iconic phone guy, apparently there's going to be a new couple of members being added to the cast that should hopefully still live up to the original. I'm not exactly sure if this means there's going to be a new phone guy or a new coworker who gives you the tutorial, or maybe just no tutorial at all, but I guess we'll see when it releases. Now, in terms of actual gameplay, there's also a bit to talk about here, because the developer has actually told us that there will be a ton of changes coming into FNAF Plus in order to complicate the current FNAF 1 formula, and to also just make the game more scary, which, just judging by the many teasers we've gotten throughout the years, we could see that's already been done through the environment and atmosphere of FNAF Plus, with a much darker tone in both the pizzeria and also within the characters, turning them more realistic but in a very uncanny way. And in my opinion, this is a very welcome change, just because the original FNAF so quickly loses its fear factor, and maybe a darker, more intense atmosphere along with the new character designs could revive that fear factor that I feel like has been lost for me playing FNAF 1 so much, or really just any of the games in general. On the flip side, while this game will be a much higher quality game than the first one, the core game mechanics will still involve the classic one-room office from the original, and they'll also still be using the 2D warped image effect to give this almost faked 3D look we saw in the first game for so long. This is to keep it more true to the original, which I actually think is a pretty good move. Now, expanding upon this, the developer FNAF really puts the plus in FNAF Plus because there's also going to be a ton of extra content in the original game as well, with the traditional 5 nights returning, along with, of course, the 6th and 7th custom. However, there's also going to be a lot of extra content as well, with the Steam page for FNAF Plus saying there's going to be loads of post-game content. And while the game story-wise isn't canon, there's also supposed to be a new interpretation of the original story itself. There's even going to be some references and new Easter eggs being added to this game as well, which we've actually already seen in the recently revealed FNAF Plus posters that show references to Scott's old projects like Chipper and Sons Lumber Co., which is an interesting touch. In the Steam page, we get a closer look at all this content as well, where it tells us firstly that there is an expanded 7th night with an in-depth night customization and adjustable AI, which could just be interpreted as similar to Night 7's traditional leveling system. But FNAF has said multiple times that the AI is going to be focused on a lot in this game expansion, so I wonder if we will be able to adjust different attributes of the AI to add new twists and potentially even much more. There's also what I assume is the flagship mode edition called the FNAF Plus mode, which is described as being for thrill-seeking fans looking for a real challenge, which I can only predict is going to be similar to the original 420 mode from FNAF 1, where it's going to be a high-octane challenge designed to be nearly impossible to test the sanity of players around the world. And finally, there's some smaller things as well, such as unlockable prizes and other minor improvements, which is nice. Something I wonder is there the possibility of maybe more updates in the future after the game's releasing coming, to maybe add new minor updates like cosmetic prizes people can have to increase the game's replay value? I'm not sure. Be a cool idea, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But now, finally, moving outside of the game's actual contents, how much will the game cost? Well, as of right now, we still don't know, and in an FAQ where a lot of this info is coming from, FNAF even said that he doesn't actually have control over the price, but it will hopefully be around the same as the first game, which was $5, so I guess around that amount, or maybe even 10. We can also potentially expect in the distant future that the game will have a console release coming up soon as well, with FNAF saying that the game is going to first be released on PC. However, there are potential plans to port the game onto mobile and console depending on what the publishers, being Scott Games, decide for the title, which I really hope becomes a thing, since I know a lot of people don't have computers and would also like to experience this game. And as for achievements and future content, there are supposedly going to be around 20 collectible achievements, so there could be a lot of achievement hunting to be had when it finally does release, which is amazing to hear. However, on the more unfortunate side, FNAF has stated in the past that FNAF Plus is probably going to be his last FNAF related project, as he since lost passion for the community after the release of Security Breach. So unfortunately, outside of this game and any potential updates that come with it, this will probably be it for FNAF Plus. But hey, let's look on the bright side. If the game does well enough, he could get motivation to possibly continue development in the future. We will see. Subscribe and peace.